Okay, this is a vintage, an antique, most likely mid-30s Atlas Electric Bakelite Cathedral clock. I bought this thing in an eBay auction in August of 2013, along with a really freaking creepy looking Dutch themed spin start wall clock, which I literally been sitting in the closet since I got it. It's kind of, a lot of people like them. I hate the freaking thing. It is so creepy. Has the same movement as this though. These were pretty common. They were typically either sold for like under $10, or they were given away as like prizes on game, like a fair, the games. The good prize would be one of these. This particular one's an Atlas brand. There was other versions. Lincoln Electric would be one. Haviland would be one. They were copied, I believe they were copied from the Hammond versions of these, and they were made in the Chicago area by probably multiple different companies. Nobody really knows. I've seen brands like Wheeler, Wheeler, and Kodel, Kodel, on the movements. The movements were made by, or actually patented and invented by a person named Max Knobel. Typically the movements in these were unbranded. No reference to the patent was ever given, even though they are all the same movement, with a couple of slight variations, like maybe some of them, like the Dutch clock has the same movement and the start knob is on the front as in the form of a little windmill. Some of them have a set knob in the back. Some of them have the set knob over here, but they're all the same movement. I'll take the back off this. Yeah, they're still common. Oh, I hit this button by accident. I can actually make it run backwards by starting it in the wrong direction. It won't hurt it in any way. These were they're pretty common now. I mean, they're pretty much a dime a dozen on eBay. And anywhere else, they turn up a lot. This one's in a really good shape. It's only got some damage to the bakelite right there. It's got a couple little dents in the back. It has all new wiring up to the motor windings. It's a very nice little clock. One of my favorites. I'm going to take the back off and show you the movement. Okay, so all you do is just remove these three screws in the back, and it comes right off. A good design on these is actually, the screws are machine screws and they don't go right into the bakelite. If they did that, they would strip out after only, even if you tighten it enough, it would crack. They actually have these little brass inserts into the bakelite, so you can pretty much take it out as many times as you need to and it won't damage it. Here's the movement. Very common spin start movement. They're very cheap. Like I said, made under a few different brands, invented by somebody named Max Knobel. Rarely do you ever see a brand on them. They were typically made in the Chicago area. This one's been rewired. It's got the original coil, I think. Yeah, it does. You can actually see the wax covered paper under there. But it's been rewired up to there, which is really nice. You can see the rotor up here, if I stop it. See the toothed rotor. You can see that big reddish gear there. That is a fiber wheel. That is made out of linen that was impregnated with phenolic resin. And the reason they did that was to keep it quiet. It's a very strong gear, but if you hit it against the grain or against the fibers, like this way, if I hit it this way, it would crack very easily, but the other way, it's fine. You can see there's a little weight on the rotor that's required to keep the motor synchronized. Well, not synchronized, but it's required to keep the rotor the rotor wouldn't have enough inertia by itself to continue running. So by having that wheel, it has more inertia, and then it's able to keep running. Because it's not a self-starting motor, any interruption, if it's slowed down a tiny bit, it would just stall. What you want to do with these is the grease, the edge of that wheel, you want to put grease on it. Very light, thin coating of grease, just so it has something. It keeps it quiet and it keeps the gear from wearing out. That is the most common problem with most spin-start clock motors and even some of the early self-starting motors. Typically one of the gears is either plastic or fiber, and that's usually the weakest link. And if some of the teeth come off of that, you can repair the gears using epoxy. It's a tedious process. I've never done it, but it can be done. The only one I've ever seen that does not have a fiber wheel or a plastic gear in it of some sort was the New Haven Elm City movement, but that's because it's such a slow motor, there's really no gear noise. See, there's a strain relief, a wire strain relief up there. And you can see this has all been redone. I've had this clock plugged in for quite a while and it keeps excellent time. You can see a very large movement. Not a shaded pole motor, not self-starting motor. Interesting feature with the inertia weight is, if I tip this over, it's probably easier to see. Now this is still plugged in, so I really should be careful. I'm going to put a little black dot on the weight, just to show this. I don't mind, that's okay. A little black line, okay. Now you can see the rotor is locked in place, but this is actually coupled to the rotor with a small spring clutch. I'm not sure why it's like that. I think that helps smooth out the rotation of the motor. Otherwise it could be a little noisy and a little chuggy. Now to start these, you don't want to spin them too fast. Just a light spin. Hold on. These movements are very easy to service. Basically just lubricate it, put a little light coating of grease on that fiber wheel. There really is no taking it apart. It is kind of pressed together. Put a little bit of oil. Some of them have the rear bushing exposed. Other ones have a little screw up here. This one I just take the screw out and I put a little drop of oil in there. And the front bushing is exposed up under there. Maybe it probably won't show up on camera, but right up over there, you just put a little oil in that, you're good to go. To start it, just give it a light spin, and that'll usually get it going. You don't want to just spin it as hard as you can, because if you do that, you do risk shearing the teeth off the fiber wheel. And if that's the case, you either have to find a replacement movement, a replacement fiber wheel, repair the one that's there, or somehow make a gear. Now, I'm not saying that just because you damage a fiber wheel means you won't ever find a gear that'll fit. I'm sure there's many gears that'll fit, but finding the right one is probably not going to be too easy to do. You're going to have to search and look and poke around until you find one, and it's just, it's a mess. Not to mention the movement is really not designed to be taken apart. They were cheap clocks, usually only guaranteed for a couple of years. They weren't designed to last long. They were cheap to make. They were very cheap to make. They were either given away as promotional gifts, like, for example, people that would sell a product, they might give these away to them after they sell so many subscriptions of like a magazine or something along those lines, and you get a free clock, or you win at a carnival game. They weren't the highest quality. They were really cheap for their time. But these movements are by far one of the most reliable clock movements you'll ever see. It's very uncommon to see one that actually has problems more than anything. I mean, sometimes they're a little noisy. Usually, the worst they need is a little oil. I've only seen one that had a bad coil in it. And I've seen quite a lot of these. Thanks for watching.